Coming up is the closing chapter of Bonding Over the Radio, AIR special program series in which author Ruskin Bond has been reading his hand-picked stories for our listeners. The title of the story is
A Crow in the House. The young crow had fallen from its nest and was fluttering about on the road, in danger of being crushed by a cart or a tonga or seized by a cat. When I picked it up and brought it home, it was in a sorry condition, beak gaping and head dropping, and we did not expect it to live. But grandfather and I did our best to bring it round. We fed it by prising its beak gently open with a pencil, pushing in a little bread and milk, and then removing the pencil to allow it to swallow. We varied this diet with occasional doses of grandmother's homemade plum wine, and as a result, the young crow was soon on the road to recovery. He was offered his freedom, but he did not take it. Instead, he made himself at home in the house. Grandmother, Aunt Mabel, and even some of grandfather's pets objected, but there was no way of getting rid of that bird. He took over the administration of the house. We were not sure that he was male, but anyway we called him Caesar because of his despotic ways. Before long, Caesar was joining us at meals. Besides finding his own grubs or beetles in the garden, he danced about on the dining table and gave us no peace until he had been given his small bowl of meat and soup and vegetables. He was always restless, fidgeting about, investigating things. He would hop across the table to empty a matchbox of its contents, or rip the daily paper to shreds, or overturn a vase of flowers, or tug at the tail of one of the dogs. "That crow will be the ruin of us," grumbled grandmother, picking marigolds off the carpet. "Can't you keep him in a cage?" We did try keeping Caesar in a cage, but he was so angry and objected with such fierce cawing and flapping that it was better for our nerves and peace of mind to give him the run of the house. He did not show any inclination to join the other crows in the banyan tree, and grandfather said this was because he was really a jungle crow, a raven of sorts, and probably felt a little contemptuous of very ordinary carrion crows. But it seemed to me that Caesar, having grown used to living with humans on equal terms, had become snobbish and did not wish to mix with his own kind. He would squabble with Harold the hornbill, perching on top of Harold's cage. He would peck at the big bird's feet, whereupon Harold would swear and scold and try to catch Caesar through the bars. In time, Caesar learnt to talk a little, as ravens sometimes do, in a cracked, throaty voice. He would sit for hours outside the window, banging on the glass with his beak and calling, "Hello, hello." He seemed to recognize the click of the gate when I came home from school, and would come to the door with a hop, skip, and jump, saying, "Hello, hello." I had also taught him to sit on an arm and say, "Kiss, kiss," while he placed his head gently against my mouth. On one of Aunt Mabel's visits, Caesar alighted on her arm and cackled, "Kiss, kiss." Aunt Mabel was delighted and possibly flattered and leant forward for a kiss. But Caesar's attention shifted to my aunt's gleaming spectacles, and thrusting at them with his beak, he knocked them off. Aunt Mabel never was a success with the pets. Pet or pest, grandmother insisted that Caesar was a pest in spite of his engaging activities. If he had restricted his activities to our own house, it would not have been so bad, but he took to visiting neighboring houses and stealing pens and pencils, hair ribbons, combs, keys, shuttlecocks, toothbrushes, and even false teeth. He was especially fond of toothbrushes and made a collection of them on top of the cupboard in my room. Most of the neighbors were represented in our house by a toothbrush, and toothbrush sales went up that year. So did grandmother's blood pressure. Caesar spied on children going into the Banya's shop and often managed to snatch sweets from them as they came out. Clothes pegs fascinated him. Neighbors would return from the bazaar to find their washing lying in the mud and no sign of the pegs. These too found their way to the top of my cupboard. It was Caesar's gardening activities that finally led to disaster. He was helping himself to our neighbor's beans when a stick was flung at him, breaking his leg. I carried the unfortunate bird home, and grandfather and I washed and bandaged his leg as best we could, but it would not mend. Caesar hung his head and no longer talked. He grew weaker day by day, refusing to eat. An occasional sip of grandmother's homemade wine was all that kept him going. One morning, I found him dead on the sofa, his legs stiff in the air. Poor Caesar, his antisocial habits had led to his early end. I dug a shallow grave in the garden and buried him there, along with all the toothbrushes and clothes bags he had taken so much trouble to collect.
Thank you, sir. The applause that the listener hears at the end of each show is the handiwork of my junior colleague who plays it from her Delhi home.
Yes.
So, shall we have a standing ovation today, listeners? Bring it on, Shamoita. Bring on the applause.
Yes, ma'am, right away.
Sir, let me present Shamoita Das, who is working from home and adding those little sound effects, the meow of the black cat, the hiss of Henry the chameleon, and even those chopping, pounding, stir-frying sounds that the listeners heard in Mehmood's kitchen were recreated by her in her own kitchen, sir.
Yes, that's wonderful. I don't know how you all did it, working from home.
Shamoita, how was it for you?
It was absolutely a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this series, and it was such a wonderful journey. I never imagined that this lockdown period and with such bloom all around, it will turn out to be so wonderful and so pleasurable. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Joining me in the studios today is the voice that ushered you into the show day after day. Introducing my colleague Manoj Mayankar.
Hello, sir.
Hello. So fortunate to have you. Otherwise, this couldn't have happened.
It was a privilege being with you, so to say, episode after episode.
It
was a wonderful journey together.
Thank you. I'm going to miss you all.
Miss you too. And now, let me introduce to all of you a colleague of mine who's been running around from the telephone studio to the recording studio to the editing studio to the dubbing studio. And her name is Bosudha Banerjee. She is the producer of this series.
She has angel's wings. She's flitting around from one studio
to another. I plead guilty for plaguing Mr. Bond for the last 20 odd days, making 1,001 calls to him on behalf of the listeners, of course. I wish I could share the 400 odd responses that have flooded our inboxes. And listeners, I promise to send all the links onto Rakesh's phone, and I hope Rakesh will share with you, sir.
Thank you.
So though this is the last story, this I hope is not the end of the journey. And I will just share the names of some of the children who wrote in. Medha Jain, Sanvi, Aryama, Dharya Mehta, K.P. Tara, Rajvi Om Deshmukh, Briti Chakraborty, Avni Agarwal, Navonir Bhattacharya, Param Shah, Sneha Menon Ghosh, Ananya Singh, Siddhi Chabra, Hiba and Abdullah, Rajshri and Vaishnavi Pandey, Uttirna Roy, Anushka Sarkar, and 8-year-old Ashvi, who sends a picture holding on to one of your books. Then, of the many who wrote in for your birthday, I have the names of Shloka Bhattacharya, Sarbari Bhattacharya, Swati Bhattacharya, Nam S., Mamer Pal, I hope I got your name right, Priyanshu Som Prakash, Neha Mehta Payal Singh, Avni Ghangurde, Sulagna Chatterjee, M. Debendra, and many, many more. Sir, there has been this amazing outpouring of love and gratitude. People have called it like a life jacket in turbulent times.
Love to all of you.
A breath of brilliance, sunshine sessions, how it has created a lovely bond in tough times, a solace in trying times, and a mood elevator, a morale booster, and somebody has called it a pan-India bedtime reading for one and all.
Love to all of you, and love to meet each one of you. Perhaps some of you will meet me someday.
Yes, at least 100 are planning to go down to Mussoorie. And for the lady who wrote in about the pan-India sessions, I want to share that we have had responses from Singapore, Spain, Canada, Malaysia, Belgium, US and the UK. I may have forgotten a couple.
Oh, wonderful. It's great. Thank you all. And all due to you, Vasundhara and All India Radio. You put me in touch with so many readers, friends.
Sir, I'll just read one last response. This is from the Ruskin Bond fan page.
Good.
So they are writing, in these depressing times, this initiative has come as a breath of fresh air. Kudos to the entire team who have worked so hard in these difficult times to make it possible. This is a much better thought through and engaging initiative than the other webinars, Facebook Live and Instagram live chats organized by various other publishers and festival organizers.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks so much. Thanks a million.
Sir, so now it will be, what shall I say? I cannot say goodbye.
No, don't say goodbye.
Till we meet again.
Say, yes, au revoir, till we meet again.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
So again,
Thank
over
you.
to Manoj Mayankar as every other day. Manoj, over to you for the closing announcement.
That was storyteller par excellence, Ruskin Bond, reading to you one of his handpicked stories. Hope these stories brought you some comfort, some connect in these times of social distancing. We'd also like to thank our technical team comprising members of the IT unit of All India Radio Delhi for their invaluable support in the making of this series. Goodbye for now. A presentation of the Central English Features Unit. This came to you from the External Services Division of All India Radio.